Dude, listen, I'm finally buying a luxury car.
That's amazing. Which Mercedes are you buying?
I never told you it's a Mercedes. What made you think so?
With a staggering market share of 40+%, what else do you expect?
That's it. और तुमने guess कर लिया?
नहीं यार, I know that you do a lot of road trips. So Volvo and Audi are already out of your shortlist because they don't offer diesel engines in India anymore.
Not bad. मेरे साथ रह के intelligent बन गए हो तुम भी. Anyways, I'm headed for the test drive. See you later, bro.
अच्छा, ठीक है, बताना गाड़ी कैसी लगी. Hello.
Says it all. Luxury cars in India synchronized with Mercedes-Benz. After all, they sold 37,000 units of them in various forms. The first W201, the 202, the actual first C-Class, the iconic and my personal pick W203, the 204, the 205, which was loved by many, and we are here in Missouri for this beautiful, gorgeous W206. How good is it over its various counterparts from 1982? Hello and welcome back to Shutterdrives. This is Zahur Hassan. If there's one thing that's common between all the generations of C-Class from 1982 till date is they all look stunning, one more than the other. And this, the W206, is no different either. This car looks stunning from every angle possible, with the front, the rear three-quarter, which is my personal favorite, and of course this side. More importantly, from the tech specs, what's important is the length of the car is now longer by 65mm and the wheelbase is longer by 25mm, which means you're going to have more legroom inside the car. And of course, the car is wider by 10mm only. Not marginal, but decent enough. One look at the all-new C-Class and you are sold. Just look at it, how gorgeous it looks. This is beautiful LED high-performance headlamps which are nicely converging into the front end of the car, giving it a nice macho and sporty look, which is further enhanced by these bonnet creases here, which are strong and very prominent. And of course, you have the big Mercedes-Benz logo which is dominating the new grille. And talking about the newer things, you also get a revised front bumper which makes the car looking slightly more striking than the earlier C-Class. And what's nicer is the addition of front parking sensors which are spread across the front bumpers just to allow enough proximity and sensing of obstacles around you to maneuver this car, which was already long, making it further longer with the W206, which will help you maneuver the car in tight parking spaces. What's nicer in the side is these new 17 inches of alloy wheels which are finished in silver and black. What's nicer is, of course, they are 50 profile tires, which means that it can handle decent Indian conditions, if not great or adventurous. And the OEM currently here is Michelin. Thumbs up on that. Open the hood of the car and firstly you are greeted with this hydraulic struts on both the sides, giving you that ease of freedom to pop into the hood of the car directly. So this is the C200 petrol, which means that this churns out 204 HP of power and 300 Newton meter of torque, which could be pumped up by another 200 Newton meter with the assistance of a 48 volt hybrid motor, which is going to be very interesting, and that particular option is available across the range of the C-Class. I can stare at the all new C-Class rear all day, all night, and the next day as well. That's how much I personally love this design at the back. It's absolutely drop dead gorgeous in my opinion. There are these large LED tail lamps which come and converge neatly into the boot of the car with a conical shape, giving it a striking design. You have the C200 badge, which reminds you that this is the only petrol engine available in the range of the C-Class family. Moving further downwards, you have a couple of parking sensors for the rear proximity, and of course there's a small thin minimalistic chrome strip edged below the rear bumper to give you that perfect luxury coefficient to complement the overall design of the new C-Class. Boot spaces are very critical, especially when you want to do those weekend trips to Goa in case your plans don't get cancelled. What does the W206 have to offer? 1, 2, 3. 3 cabin bags, 1 duffel bag and a small backpack. Is what could be accommodated with great ease in the new C-Class, still leaving you with this much of space, which means that this boot is accommodative enough for your weekend trips. When you first look at the rear of the C-Class, first thing that instantly hits your mind is the resemblance to the eldest sibling, the S-Class. And that's nicer in a way because a lot of people love the S-Class, and getting a similar design for the rear in the C-Class is something to be appreciated. But what's out of the world, where Mercedes has stepped up big time, is the interiors of the W206, the current gen C-Class. These interiors are heavily, I repeat, they are heavily inspired from the flagship S-Class, and that's insanely good because you are getting a gist of the much expensive S-Class in the C-Class. To start off with, you have these AC vents which are kind of taken off from there. So basically you have these silver lines with the grey background which look very nice. Smaller things like this, attention to detail is absolutely top notch. And of course, how could we forget the latest gen MBUX, which makes its way in the Maybach, in the S-Class, and then this C-Class. How good of Mercedes to offer that here. And apart from that, you have the 11.9 inch of display here that controls plethora of controls ranging from various speedometer designs, various tachometer designs, and what not. So this is the steering wheel, which again is inspired from the mighty expensive and the larger proportionated S-Class. Looks fantastic, feels absolutely amazing to hold. The silver finish here is top notch, and trust me on this, I really mean it, that the quality of this car is damn good. And apart from that, you have these leather seats, complete pure leather seats, which are extremely comfortable. And surprisingly, for a change, these seats in a Mercedes are actually very comfortable from the cushioning point of view, because I've driven the earlier cars and they're not the most comforting of all. Say the A-Class that we drove recently. Coming from that, this looks very comfortable, and that's a very nice thing. And of course, there are a lot of things to talk about. For example, this nicely integrated memory seats here, the power window switches here, the doors, everything look that they are built to last forever. And then you have this nice closing lid here that makes its way to wireless charging port, this Type-C charger, there are a couple of cup holders, and then there's this armrest which again has integrated charging system inside it. And what's more important is this car is literally filled with tech, which we are going to brief you very shortly. But before we move out of this context, let me remind you that you get a massive panoramic sunroof, feather touch operation for the sunroof. Just tap your finger, not even touch, just tap your finger over it and the sunroof opens and closes. And even if that is too much, then hey Mercedes,
how can I help?
Open the sunroof.
A few moments later.
She's thinking what to do.
I'm opening the sunroof.
She's nice, she takes her own time, she understands, and then she reciprocates to the commands. How good is the music system of the all-new C-Class? So that was about it, and that was a gist of how the music system is. In my humble opinion, it's very good, it's really nice, but however, I still feel that the bass could have been slightly better. So talking about the most important aspect in the interiors of the C-Class, which is heavily inspired by the S-Class in the current format in the W206. So I'll be very blunt and honest with you guys. It's going to be very difficult for me to take you through deeper into this MBUX right now, because I need at least 3/4 of the day. But when the car comes to Bangalore, I promise I'm going to take you very deeply inside it. But for starters, let's see what does the MBUX system have to offer as an overview. Firstly, let me remind you that this system is designed in-house in Mercedes-Benz Research and Development Center in Bangalore, and that's something that we are very proud of being Bangaloreans. So moving into the system, we have the navigation, phone and radio options which are there in most of the systems. And let's get into the comfort. So basically you have an option to actually position the seat automatically based on your seat height. That is directly linked with the biometrics, which we are going to go later. And then you have the ambient lighting option ranging from 64 colors
to choose from. So this is something that I really appreciate, where you have plethora of controls for your vehicle, ranging from the simpler things like searching for the filling station when the fuel levels are low in your car, to closing the doors and opening them. And of course you have the lighting options like we spoke about, the ambient lighting, the interior lighting, the exterior lighting and whatnot. And what's also nice is you can also enable and disable the voice commands through Hey Mercedes. And one thing that I really want to point out is I'm not a big fan of these voice commands in earlier Mercedes, especially the E-Class, because I had to kind of slightly relatively struggle with the voice commands there, but things have vastly improved now and this MBUX system is much better. And one thing that I also want to point out is you have an option to choose between various languages for the infotainment system. That's going to be really helpful. So this is something that I kind of saw for the first time ever. Basically you can see the consumption of the accelerator and the brake. I'm completely pressed the brake pedal and it's somewhere around 60% right now. The typical engine options show you the torque consumed in terms of Newton meters and of course power in kilowatts. These are the engine oil pressure level and this is the digital temperature gauge. Interesting touch indeed. And of course let's go back and see what else does the car have to offer. So you have the climate menu here. Basically this is a dual zone climate control and you can check or adjust the temperatures accordingly. So going back further, these are the built-in apps which you can use directly from the screen here. So this is a 3D navigation which seems to be pretty convenient. So coming to the most iconic part of the MBUX system, that is the fingerprint sensor. So basically you can see that this car recognizes me. That's because I have configured my profile. So the best part is this particular biometric sensor, it also takes into account the smaller details. It also recognizes my height, because I had inputted my height here, and then automatically it gives out the best driving position for me, be it from the steering point of view or the seating position or whatnot. This is something that I've seen for the first time and I find it to be absolutely incredibly super duper cool. So this is the parking assistance that's going to help you in parking your car, and this is the reverse camera. One thing that's actually astonishingly shocking is you don't get a 360-degree camera as a standard. That's something that's available as an accessory alone. And yes, that's something that could have been provided by Mercedes-Benz. And these are the AC controls. And one thing that I want to also point out is the AC is not the most effective of all, just like we have seen in most of the Mercedes of late. And you have the drive mode selector here directly, and this is something that is used to configure your car in terms of the manual shifting. You have an option to switch off the ESP directly from here, which is nice touch. And of course there's an option to enter the settings directly from this one touch button. Last but certainly not the least, you have dedicated controls for your volume control. No physical buttons, but this touch responsive is actually super duper smooth, so you won't have any complaints there at all. So that's a very short tour of the MBUX system, the latest MBUX system from Mercedes-Benz. Like I said earlier, once we get a car in Bangalore, when we get to spend more time with it, I promise you I'm going to take you through a very detailed video of the MBUX alone. When I first learned that the wheelbase of the W206 has been increased by 25 millimeters, I was very excited because of the fact that I knew that this could potentially translate to increase in rear legroom, which has been the pitfall for the C-Class for a very long time. You know, people who actually wanted to enter the luxury sedan space were slightly relatively disappointed with the legroom of the C-Class earlier, but that's not the case here, because legroom has considerably improved here and it's actually good enough for you to travel long distance. The headroom is abundant in spite of having the provision for the rear sunroof. And not just that, something that's actually nicer is the seats are relatively comfortable. One thing that I found, not exactly comparable, but in the S90 that we drove recently, was the front seats were amazing, but the rear seats were horrible to say the least. But that's not the case here. The rear seats are much better here. But wait, let me show you something pretty unique here. So this is the rear center armrest, which has two other jobs. First is it has a provision to store your phone. Not bad. So this is how you keep your phone here. It's quite a struggle, honestly. I would rather prefer to stuff it here. Okay, this is not Slavia. It doesn't have a provision to store your phone. So, and something else that's assigned here is this crafted to perfection cup holders. we slot it here, which is incredible. Just look at the attention to detail here. There is anti-slip mat on these small cup holders. Coffee doesn't spill. Neat, very, very interesting. The last thing, which is predominantly the most important thing for the rear passengers, is the presence of rear AC vents. And also, given the fact, like I told you earlier, Mercedes-Benz cars do not have the best of the best ACs. In fact, the AC performance is above average to say the best, and these have a very, very pivotal role to play in our tropical summers, and they do a decent job, if not great. Before we move out, let me remind you that we do get these interesting sun blinds, which should help you take some shelter in these hot summers. The only petrol engine available here, and that churns out 201 bhp and 300 newton meter of torque. I'm just gently tapping the gas, gently tapping the accelerator here, and the car is actually brisking to glory in these mountains of Dehradun, the spectacular mountains of Dehradun. So downshifting now, M2, yes, it goes to M3 automatically, which means that there is a manual override, which is a nice thing to have, because rev the gearbox a lot without changing gears for a long time, it's going to be harmful for the gearbox. There's a manual override, which means that after a certain RPM, if you do not change the gears yourself, the car is going to upshift for you. And Mercedes-Benz has finally decided to go away with the rotary dial here for the gear selection. In my humble opinion, I was never a fan of it, never liked it a lot, and they decided to use this as a minimalistic approach in the design language. The engine gearbox combination is really nice and smooth. It looks like they both are made for each other. The gearbox listens to the tunes, to the RPM levels of the engine, and then it upshifts or downshifts accordingly. In my humble opinion, it still remains one of the nicest combination out there.
The underbody of the new C-Class hasn't undergone a major change, and yet you get a very compliant ride comfort, which is what the car was always intended to deliver. However, fanatics will clearly miss the adaptive dampers found in the erstwhile siblings. The suspension seems to be sorted out in 90% of the cases. Just that the large and uninvited craters around this beautiful hill station went on to give a serious threat to the C-Class. That's when you miss the dampers even more. The suspension layout is similar to the W205 with double wishbones up front and independent multi-link rear setup. But of course, the spring dampers and couple of components in the anti-roll bar are different in settings. And the focus on comfort is obvious as soon as you hit the road. The C-Class delivers a noticeably improved ride quality over the predecessor. The earlier C was slightly stiff in terms of the handling, and that's where the W206 has a massive responsibility to fill that shoes. In fact, being able to absorb most of the road imperfection means that the C doesn't get thrown around with its body roll and can thus carry a bit more speed through the bends. What's actually nicer is all the boxes in this laundry list have been ticked off without having to compromise on the handling, with a stellar coefficient of drag of just 0.24 in spite of this significant increase in dimensions in every way possible.
Started the review with the C200 petrol, and we are ending with the iconic C300D AMG inspired design. This has to be our personal pick of the range of the CW206, simply because of the fact that for that extra money that you are going to spend on this car, it's going to be worth every single rupee, because these design elements are distinctive. You get a completely revised grille, you get 18 inches of crazy alloy wheels, new seats, new interiors, and a lot more plethora of things to choose from in the AMG inspired design. And more importantly, an engine that is going to be an absolute bonkers with shocking power and torque numbers. That's about it, guys. If you guys liked the video, do not forget to subscribe to our channel and follow us on Instagram. Take care, drive safe, and more importantly, stay healthy, because we learned that COVID is coming back with another variant, just like the variants of Volkswagen Polo maybe. Oh wait, Polo is discontinued.